It is embarrassing right now to be a Democrat. I'm going to say that. It is embarrassing to be a Democrat right now. It is embarrassing that we are in this place that there was no lawsuit against Mitch McConnell holding the Supreme Court seat hostage, right? There was grounds for that. Mitch McConnell, as a senator, didn't have the power to be able to override the power of the presidency, but we gave him that power. That was the day that Mitch McConnell became that powerful, right? And then knew that I can do whatever I want with 30 days to go, right? I'm going to force in I refer to her as Amy COVID Barrett, by the way.
That's hilarious.
That I'm going to force her on the American people. And then you have the Susan Collins of the world, who, by the way, just recently have decided that they have woken up from their coma and realized that Brett Kavanaugh is actually going to take away Roe v. Wade. If you remember, she was like, he's not going to do that. I have just such good faith and feeling in him, right? And just wanted to admonish Donald Trump for his bad behavior. But like a toddler, she believed that he had learned his lesson. The fact is that as Americans, we are learning a very, very important lesson right now, which is that we don't have a two-party system, which is that Democrats continue to acquiesce to Republican will. And that this woman, this letter, this act of violence at the hands of a 15-year-old is just the beginning. We have now two white male teenagers, right? In just the past couple of weeks, whose names are in headlines for taking down people, for becoming murderers. Kyle Rittenhouse's mother drove him across state lines with an AR-15 and dropped him off at this march as if she was dropping him off at fucking soccer practice. You now have this woman, Crumbly, Ethan's mother, deciding that she's going to send a note to the president of the United States thanking him for being a staunch advocate for the Second Amendment, going out, buying their kid a gun, which is what they did.
Because apparently these realtors, Danielle, in the suburbs, they got to be armed. Apparently shit goes down in these middle class neighborhoods, so you got to be armed and ready when you're showing a home.
I had no idea.
Didn't you know?
I had no idea. Having grown up in a majority white suburb, I had no idea how dangerous it was. I should have been packing that entire time.
No, I know, because you would have been shot and killed.
True.
So thank God you did not.
True. You're right.
But look, this is where, people say, oh, you can't become like the Republicans. Last week we talked about this Daily Beast article I did where I said, we talked about how Marjorie Taylor Greene literally said on Steve Bannon's show, I'm the base. And I said, this is a gift, Democrats. This is a gift. You need to now make them the face of the Republican Party to win over some of these suburban voters, right? I was talking about Marjorie Taylor Greene, Paul Gosar, Madison Cawthorn, Matt Gaetz, who, by the way, is still under investigation for having sex with a minor and driving her across state lines. And of course, Lauren Boebert, who's never made a gun she probably doesn't want to make love to, right? And I said, unlike this, do you think she gets aroused when she looks at guns?
I do.
Probably,
I do.
Yeah, I think she gets orgasms with each gun she looks at, right? And I feel like it's one of those situations where they demonize the squad, who conveniently are women of color.
And unarmed, by the way. Unarmed.
And not armed, and don't support violent insurrectionists or the Oath Keepers or the freaking QAnon conspiracy theory, which is a domestic terror threat, according to the FBI. And they use that to tarnish all Democrats and progressives as these radicals. And so when I said that, some people were like, oh, it's too harsh and you can't be like the Republicans. I'm like, this is why Democrats lose. What am I saying that is in any way, shape, or form unethical? You keep it real. And that's why, my parents like the squad. My parents, who are senior citizens, Pakistani Muslim immigrants. Check this out. Why do my mom and my father like AOC? I asked them. I'm like, this is strange. You guys used to vote for like Republicans in the late 90s. Why do you like her? My mom said it. I'm translating for you. She goes, she has John, which means life. She has passion. She fights. She articulates her positions well. She's smart. I love her passion and John, that she's willing to advocate for these things. That's what my parents respond to,
Wow.
right? So, and so the squad is a little too to the left, to the majority. I get it. But that type of fight for your constituents who fear for their lives, for voting rights, for climate change, for, income inequality to lessen it, for parental rights, for free pre-K. I want to see that fight. I want to see Chuck Schumer pissed off that his colleague, Ilhan Omar, is getting death threats and Democratic leadership is still kind of quiet. Why?
I mean, we know why. But the fact is, your parents are right, is that, if we were to, we're in the future, right? Like we're seeing this. We are seeing everything, every nightmare that I imagined would happen if Donald Trump had become president has come to fruition, right? Everything that we thought would happen, the extremism, the rise of hate, violence, right? I never would have imagined a political party being pro-virus, but also here we are. And when you see that Marjorie Taylor Greene and Lauren Boebert are their base, right? Why is it that Democrats then are running from their strong, powerful, smart, passionate women of color? Why is it that the Democratic Party isn't running towards them, realizing that they are in fact the future, instead of trying to hang on to some semblance of moderation and making it Manchin's party when it's not?
Yeah, it's not. I mean, like, literally, it's not. I mean, people say, "Oh no, Wajahat and Danielle, you're poo-pooing on these things called the centrists, which don't exist." No, look at all the data. What Manchin supports is not supported by the majority of people, right? So when Manchin says he's the center, if your definition of the center is right wing, then sure. But that's also an example of how we have allowed the right wing to shift the center increasingly to the right ever since the war on terror, the last 21 years, and have allowed that asymmetrical fiction to be the reality. And then the left, instead of throwing down and say, actually, our ideas are very popular according to the majority and we will fight for them, they cede the ground. And they also cede the ground because the quote unquote establishment is still old and wealthy and white and terrified by these women of color and terrified by racial progress, right? Let's just keep it real. Let's keep it 100. That's the reality. And so instead of, here's an example. We talked about this on this program. Imagine if Kamala Harris was getting hit by the left. She was the vice president, and just say she was a Republican. Don't you think the Republican thing in its power to lift her up and protect her like they are protecting Boebert and Green? And instead, look at what they're doing with Harris right now. I don't care if you like Harris or not. She's the vice president of your party. It was Biden and Harris that got 81 million votes, and she is the face of the party. What have they done to protect Harris or elevate her?
Nothing. They have done absolutely nothing. And there is an entire media operation hit squad that is in place. And you do not, I want to know, every day that I'm seeing Joe Biden on television talking about the latest variant, and why isn't there any balance there? Why aren't I also seeing Kamala Harris, who is supposed to be leading up the vaccination rollout, right? Why am I just seeing him? When we're talking about, the Build Back Better, and you have your another mouthpiece who is the vice president of the United States, why aren't you doing that? But watch, it's the same feeling that we had before. Let us pretend, right? You are a prop. Black and brownies, you are a prop. We need you in order to convince people that we are much fucking woker than we are. So here, we will put her up there. She looks good. We'll get your 81 million votes, and then we'll hide her in the basement because we don't want white people to be reminded of the fact that your vice president is a woman of color.
That's right. You know what? I agree with you. It's the tokenization of black and brown voters who represent the base of the Democratic Party, especially in national elections. And we will court you and tokenize you to get your votes. But then once we're in power, we will always put you second to the aggrieved white voter in the Rust Belt who will never vote for us again. But maybe, just maybe, if we're charming enough and bipartisan enough, and maybe, just maybe, if we court Manchin, maybe we'll get you. And they haven't gone to you since the 1950s, and they won't. And the reality is, Stacey Abrams has to literally will herself like a dynamo and hand deliver to you Georgia just to be finally respected. Like, they cannot ignore Stacey Abrams, which is why the announcement of Stacey Abrams running for governor again against Brian Kemp, who is one of the architects of massive voter suppression in Georgia. They've welcomed it because they're forced to welcome it, right? Imagine Stacey Abrams 3-4 years ago, if she would have done, they wouldn't have welcomed her. But now they realize, oh, we need this black woman. Well, we can't get Georgia without her. So now, hey, Stacey, come, we like you, Stacey. Cory Bush, go F off.
Yep.
Kamala Harris, stay in the basement. AOC, stick with your Instagram. And Ilhan Omar, never tweet again.
Never tweet again. Right? And we can't hear you because you're wearing a hijab. I got to tell you, what we said last week remains true this week and will remain true as we turn the calendar year, which is that this country hates women. I mean, that is very clear. And if you are a strong-willed, passionate, convicted woman of color, right? Like steadfast in your convictions, we damn sure don't want to hear you. And not only do we not want to hear you, we want to punish you and we want to silence you. And, it is going to take so much of our collective will to push back against that if we are ever going to see the other side of this. And frankly, the reality is you and I may never see the other side, right? But we need to pave some type of path so that the ones that are coming behind us have some hope of seeing something better than the shit sandwich we are handing them right now.